Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Hooah!
That's fun.
That's how Al Pacino conceived his kid at 80.
Oh, that's a really good movie fun fact. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, welcome to our review of Sex and the City, Season 6, Episode 16. Not featuring Al Pacino. That's rough.
But he'll show up eventually, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how you convinced me to do this podcast, was you said Al Pacino will come up eventually, and I said, okay, that's the one condition. And you said, yeah, sure. So I'm just making sure. Yeah, right?
Yeah. He's one of the big Carrie boyfriends in Season 3.
Right. Okay, cool.
This episode, Emily, what was your one word?
I think my one word for this one will be, I know we just had the baby episode, but I actually would make this one also kids.
I originally wrote down Baby Strikes Back. That was going to be my one word.
This is a two-parter.
Yeah, because I was like, this is the sequel, Baby Strikes Back. But then I changed it to Borough Hate.
Yes.
Because there is a lot of Manhattan
really
on outer borough crime here.
They're starting a civil war.
Yeah, like we have joked, and obviously they've referenced that, Manhattan is the only valid borough, but it really comes to a head in this episode.
We'll get to it. Well, we'll have a long discussion about this, but I think that's we have Baby Strikes Back, Kids Strike Back, and then also borough hate. Inter-borough crime.
Strong episode. So let's get into it. This is Sex and the City, Season 6, Episode 16, Out of the Frying Pan, which I get that there are frying pans in this episode, but I don't know where this
bit of a stretch. Bit of a stretch. Because, what is the fire, right? The rest of the phrase is out of the frying pan into the fire. Out of one bad situation into a bigger one. What's the fire?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I just was out here out of the frying pan, okay, on the floor.
It's part of it's literally they knew that there was a phrase, there was an idiom that's out of the frying pan into the fire. And they were like, well, a frying pan's mentioned, so we'll make this out of the frying pan. But the phrase means, we got out of one bad situation, and then, oh no, an even worse situation. Which is, I guess the baby's striking back is the fire.
In this metaphor, the baby's taking vengeance is the fire. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, let me just say that last episode and this episode, if you're having a baby crisis, don't listen.
Yeah, this is not for you.
It's not for you. Yeah, it's not going to end well. And I wish you the best on your journey. Yeah. That's all
I'm so
say.
Sorry. I'm not even having a baby crisis, and this episode was giving me a baby crisis.
And it triggered one
a lot going on.
Yep, exactly. Well, first of all, we start with Carrie's inability to explore the city she lives in, which is, she says, when you're dating something new, everything can seem foreign, especially when you're dating someone foreign.
Okay, off to a great start.
Off to a top tier start. And then the best part is she's like, it's her and Petrovsky, and she's like, he took me around the world, Greek and Astoria. I forget the other ones that she lists, but basically he took her out of Manhattan. He took her out of the Upper East Side, actually, because as we learned,
out of the Upper East Side. She goes to K-Town. She's in Lincoln, Manhattan.
Yes, she goes to Midtown, and she's like, wow.
That's how you know how bad it is. When we talk about Carrie being in a bubble, and she's like, wow, and she's on 32nd and 7th. It's so funny. Also, you know what this reminds me of? the clip you sent me of the unaired Lea Michele travel show pilot that was filmed.
Yes.
For whoever doesn't know about this, which means that you are not online, God bless, but this was a thing that you found on TikTok of some pilot for like a travel cooking something show that was going to be hosted by Lea Michele, like pre-Glee.
Yes. I think it was basically this, where it was like Lea Michele finds the good, like, ethnic food in each borough of Manhattan. So, like, I think the pilot that exists, it's like Indian food somewhere in Queens, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So
she's like in Flushing or something, and she's like
her getting off the subway, looking around wistfully, acting as if she's like in literal India. Mm-hmm. Being like, wow, the cultures and the tastes of Queens.
I felt like the minute I walked off the train, it's like, it wasn't even like walking off the train, it's like walking off an airplane.
Neela told me it's quite typical for Bangladeshis to eat with their hands. And to me, that's what traveling is all about.
Yeah. That is what Carrie is doing here. Where she's like, wow, I went all around the world. I went to Queens. And it's like, girl, how long have you been living in the city and you didn't realize that there was a Greek part of Queens? Like, wake up.
Yeah, she's like, wake up. It's crazy. It's crazy that in just the last episode, Samantha was like, but what are all the wonderful things you could do without a kid? And Carrie's first thing she said was travel. That's a crazy,
where are you going,
crazy
girl?
thing for her to say.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
Like, is he reading this column? I hope he's not. Because if he's reading this column and seeing how common you call him a foreigner, I would start bringing up questions.
I would start having conversations.
I'd start asking, hey, maybe could we not say that? Like, she's just... It's a wild intro to an episode open.
It's great. She's like one step away from being like, as someone whose partner is POC.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of tone that she's taken. It's wild. It's wild.
It is wild. And also, again, point to Greece on a map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Greece on a map. I would die.
She just points to Queens.
Yeah, she points to Queens. It's just incredible. Then we cut to, she's like dressed all up for this night in this like sort of flamenco inspired like skirt with corset. It's like so ridiculous. And she makes a joke here, which again is another kind of like joke where she's like, so where are you taking me tonight? I'm fully vaccinated. God. Dear Lord. Dear Lord. There was a part of me watching this scene between the two.
We already started to fill up the jar. Sorry.
Yeah, the jar's already.
I think we're starting a run-on bit on this podcast where we just have our problematic jar. And it's like anytime they say something that is dated or something, it's like we put a little quarter in.
Yeah, and it's full already. We're 2 episodes into counting and it's like already full. This whole scene here between the two of them is so beautiful and great in the way that what we talk about, which is that they're so mismatched and yet somehow work. And I was like, I want to see this show. I don't know. There's some, like, I was so keyed into their relationship this episode. And I was like, that's the travel show I want, is these two people. Like Petrovsky being like keyed in to like, oh, we're going to Thailand. I went there once in the 70s and this was my favorite spot. And then Carrie just being like, I'm fully vaccinated. Like I just...
That's actually such a good pitch. My God.
Good pitch. Why? It's so good.
I'm greenlighting that right now on the spot. That's so good.
Yeah. I mean, promo for Anne just like that. Do it. Get Baryshnikov out. Do a little promo video. You're getting everybody to watch every demo from babies up.
From the exactly. Oh, man.
But he surprises her and he says, we're going somewhere I've never been before, your apartment. And he storms up the stairs with 2 Cinderella bags. Cinderella, the grocery shop of New York.
Yeah, right. It's a nice little taste of home there with the Cinderella bags. I like that.
But then we cut to their finished plates and Carrie goes, Art Schmart, the man can cook. She's a little bit in her stand-up lane this episode.
Yeah, we're getting some bits here.
We're getting bit Carrie and, take it or leave it. And he makes a joke where he's like, I've never had to cook risotto in a frying pan. And she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And then she goes, I also didn't have enough time to hide all of my Vogues, which I usually put in the tub for company. I'm like, what if they get wet? That seems like
That's a good question. I mean, we're puncturing holes in every statement she's made so far. Yeah. But like, it's a good point. Why would you put your paper stacks in your wet bathtub?
Look, she started aggressive. Okay, I'm going full younger sibling right now. She started it by being aggressive. Okay, so I am going to be aggressive against her. Okay, because she started it. She put it on me. All right.
She did. That's true. But both of you need to go to your rooms until you both calm down, and then you can come out for dinner.
I'm not going to be punished because she started it.
Yeah. Also, I will say the hiding the Vogues and I guess because it's like a stack of papers, whatever. But it's like, if anything, I'm like, no, leave those out for people to talk about. Like the little things where you have personality, Carrie. Like you just keep talking about how you have no art on the walls. Like put your Vogue on the walls. I don't know. Like just have a little personality. Show it off. It's fine.
I really don't think a stack of Vogues is that offensive, but
yeah, I don't think anyone would be like, ugh, trash. That's
but like, again, Carrie always focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah. Exactly. They're sitting on the floor, Carrie. You don't have chairs. That's the problem. It's not this pile of Vogues in the corner.
Yeah. She never learns the right mistake. Let me just put it that way. But, you know, obviously Petrovsky's so sweet. He's like, I love your house.
Yes.
You know, super complimentive. And then of course he's like, and now espresso. And she goes, where? Because obviously she doesn't have an espresso machine.
Obviously.
So he goes to the kitchen to try and figure out what her coffee situation is. And a mouse appears.
This made me scream.
Yeah, it did. It made me scream as well. It makes me scream that he absolutely kills it.
Yeah, he just annihilates it. Like I actually had the same reaction as Carrie. To scream and then immediately be like, you killed it. You know, like, oh my God, that was really brutal. He just, in one go.
With a pan.
One KO with a frying pan.
But we end on the button, which is that Petrovsky goes, okay, we go out.
Very funny.
He's just being his very direct self.
Yeah, he's not mincing words, and that's all right.
So all four of the girls are at Samantha's chemo appointment. They're all eating popsicles, you know, being supportive. I kind of like this, you know, in the way that they're like trying to keep her happy. You know what I mean? And like keep the experience positive. And we end on the note, cancer is hilarious, which, you know, she's obviously being about.
We're making light of it. It's good.
But we learn that she has a film premiere for Smith Jared's big film coming up. And she says, you know, I'm going to kick cancer and the red carpet's ass. And that kind of sets up her plot for this episode. So then Carrie's with Petrovsky, and she's she's in her stand-up era in this episode, and she is talking up chemo like it's the best thing ever, which, you know, okay.
Yeah, all right.
They're like in the kitchen supplies department, and she's like, it's amazing. It's like better than the Fourth Seasons. And then she says she doesn't even look sick, and kind of similar issue that we heard about in the last episode. You know, Petrovsky's very direct, and he's like, but she is sick. And then he says, I had a friend who had cancer and she died. And Carrie just can't accept that.
Yeah. This is a completely believable argument that's going to happen between these characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is, I completely believe Petrovsky acting this way does not feel like Dr. Robert Leeds going psycho. You know what I mean? Because we need to make him bad. This is exactly something Petrovsky would do, and this is exactly something he and Carrie would be at odds with because they have completely different coping mechanisms. So I was like fully on board with it in that sense.
I was fully on board with it too. And it's true to his character, which is being Russian.
Right. And she died. So Charlotte and Harry are at home,
And the doctor calls while Charlotte's cooking eggs. And you just kind of hear her go, oh, okay, none of them worked? All right. And then hangs up the phone and she tells Harry, none of my eggs were viable again. And Harry kind of gently tries to be like, so what do you want to do next? And she's like, oh, obviously, we're going to try IVF again. And he's like, well, it's already been 2 times. And she's like, well, it's going to work because it has to work. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, are you okay? And she's just kind of like, yeah. And then she's like, I'm going to go for a run. So we see her go off to a run, and it's like kind of cheesy, but I also really like the nonverbal direction here of like she's running and Carrie's voiceover being like, she was the most popular person in her class, she won everything except the baby race. And as Carrie says that, she kind of like is running and then sees that she's running next to a stroller and then starts running faster, so she like outpaces the stroller so she doesn't have to see it. It's like a little hokey, but I like it.
I also like Charlotte she's going on her run like in a scarf, like in a Burberry scarf.
I'm like, girl, you're sweating. I had the same thought too. I was like, she's wearing too many. It's fall. It's not even winter.
Yeah, that's true. She's like dressed for like Sub-Zero.
Yeah. I had the same thought where I was like, she is a sweaty mess. Speaking of mess, do you like that transition? We cut to Miranda.
Play the Seinfeld like do.
Yep. We cut to Miranda and Steve at home, and their apartment is just like a mess. They're like next to the dining room table, and there's just like baby shit everywhere. And they're looking at new apartments because Steve is like, we can't live like this anymore. And then there's this very, I feel like, quintessential scene where he's like, oh, look at this, it's a 3-bedroom. And Miranda's like, I'm putting on my shoes. And he's like, outdoor space. She's like, I'm grabbing my bag. And then he's like, and a finished basement. She's like, oh my God, it's a house. And then he's like, in Brooklyn. And she's like, okay, shoes are off.
Here we go.
Oh man. Again, if you're very sensitive about Brooklyn and people hating on Brooklyn, this is not the episode for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I should go my spiel now or later because it's going to get worse later, but maybe we should do it later when they go actually see the house and it's like bizarrely in ruins.
Yeah, but Miranda puts her foot down. She's like, I'm a Manhattan girl. And then, of course, the dog, because Steve has a dog, and Miranda's cat, Fatty, they get into a little fight. So she picks up the cat, and then she's like, okay, you're right, I'll look at it. So then we cut to Carrie and Petrovsky, and they are drinking their espresso. Classic, Carrie doesn't like it. And she's like, no wonder you're up all night. And of course she tries to put milk in it, and he's like, no, just drink it. Have some culture. And then Carrie, for once, is very direct about her feelings with him. She's like,
yeah, I was actually going to say that. I was like, this is actually really refreshing that Carrie starts the thing and also says exactly what the problem is instead of just like kind of talking around it.
Yeah.
Good
and then
for
just,
Carrie.
Like, being passive aggressive. Carrie here doing some good work. It'll explode later, but doing some good work. So she confronts him and she says, I just felt like you weren't being sensitive about my feelings when I brought up my friend. She says, I'm sorry about your friend, but like my friend is going to be fine. Not everybody dies. And he's like, that's because they're lucky. And she is like, you have to stop saying die. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of pushing her, being like, but you have to acknowledge the possibility. And then she just like spirals and is like, you're not listening to me. Stop bringing up your dead friend. I don't want to hear about them. And he says, I think you're acting like a child. And she's like, I think you're acting like an asshole. And then she does a very me-coded thing, which is she's like, I'm going to leave. But then her jacket's like behind him. So she has to like angrily like pull out her jacket from under him and then like storm out. She like finishes the coffee too, and it's like too hot. He's like, it's really hot. She's like, ugh. And then she's like, I'm leaving. It's very me.
She's like, I'm leaving. And he's like, I think you should leave. And she's like, I'm leaving anyway.
Yeah. It's great. It's very me coded. I've been there. Yeah, I just think there's something about this scene where I can tell why she's so frustrated, because, you know, she's trying to be positive about Samantha. He is just a very matter-of-fact guy.
Yeah, it's like she's trying to be positive and he's trying to be right. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's trying to be like correct and like teach her, like, no, you have to be this way. And she's just trying to like see a silver lining and be positive. You know, they just have completely different objectives in this scene.
Yeah. And I think it's like what we've been talking about all along, which is that they are very different people. And it's nice that they take an episode to say, you know, this is a problem for them. Like, you know, it's not something that they're just going to skip over. You know, they have to like figure it out. But then we cut to Carrie at home. She can't sleep and she can't tell if it's because she's angry or if it's the espresso. Espresso, big villain of this episode. Major villain of this episode.
Cause of
babies
conflict.
And espresso, big villains of this episode. So then we cut back to Charlotte stretching at the park. The reservoir is like the fifth character of this episode. The reservoir gets a lot of promotion and hype this episode.
Yeah. They booked that area and they shot all their scenes right there in one day and they called it a day. Like they really I can see the square footage of the area they blocked off to film.
Today, I walked around part of the reservoir, and now every time I go there, I just think about Charlotte's infertility. It's like the first thing that comes to my mind, because all these scenes take place around the park because she uses running to as like a stress release from this, you know, her struggle to conceive. So every time I'm there, it's like, bing, first thing I think about.
Sure, look at a baby.
That and you running there in high school, because when you told me that was where your class ran for like gym class, that just makes me laugh.
I'm glad
that's what like me in suburbia dreams about what Manhattan kids do. You know what I mean?
Is that we run around the reservoir?
Yeah. That's like too movie perfect to be real.
That's so funny. I love that you remembered that. That makes me really happy. Thank you.
I know things about you.
Yeah, we were running around the reservoir, and then also people were crying, running past us, being like, I can't have a baby. It was like a lot was going on.
Those are the only two things that happen at the reservoir.
That happen at the reservoir, yeah.
So as she's stretching at the park, a King Charles Spaniel runs up to her and she meets Princess Dandy Ridge Brandywine is this dog's name. And essentially she was a show puppy, but she's a two-time loser because even though she was bred by the two best dogs in the world, one leg is shorter than the other and therefore she has a defect. And it like you can see how much it wounds Charlotte to hear all these negative words about this poor dog.
Yeah, she's so sad. I mean, the lady's also just being really weird and mean.
Yeah, no, the lady.
What a cute dog. And the lady's like, it's a runt.
Yeah, she's being aggressive about this poor animal. But I guess that's the direction she got. So that's the direction we're going with. And then we end on the quip. You know, that's when King Charles met an Upper East Side princess. On that one, I'm like, Carrie, you could have done better. You know? You could have done better.
She started it.
Not one of her best. Yeah, she started it. So Miranda grabs a cab to see the house in Brooklyn, and the cabbie says, I don't go to Brooklyn. And she goes, yeah, neither do I.
And then gets out. There's a you can take a cab to Brooklyn. I just want to fact check this. You can take a cab to Brooklyn.
If anything, it doesn't make sense because that's like $50. Do you not want to earn $50?
Right, exactly. That's a long trip. That's great.
Yeah, I'm like, especially in that day and age, like, come on now.
Yeah, that's your afternoon.
Like, that's it. Instead of getting like 3 rides around the Upper East Side that cost $5 each, inflation.
You get to add a bunch of like bridge taxes and stuff, tolls.
Come
or whatever,
on now.
You know.
Hell yeah. I'm sorry.
Come on.
If anything, the cabbies got the people to Brooklyn because they were like, listen, what you got to check out. And also for $60.
And also it's $60. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that guy's just a poor businessman. Sorry.
Yes. Like, we're giving him business tips right now.
Yeah,
Honestly, financial advice for the cab driver.
He should travel back in time and, maybe have listened to a couple more Susie Orman episodes. You know what I mean? Because he might have learned something.
But okay, look a gift horse in the mouth, I guess.
All right, I don't go to Brooklyn. Fine, suit yourself. I like how she doesn't, like, the Brooklyn hatred is so deep that she doesn't even try to get another cab.
Yeah.
She just is like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, she just is like, yeah, she just gets out of there resigned. We don't know how she gets there. I'm guessing she eventually takes the subway, which, like, in itself, like, was such a big deal. And then just like that they made out of that. I'm like, I don't even know how she got there. Whatever. She, like, hired a limo.
A black car.
Yeah, exactly. To get there.
Cadillac Escalade. Yeah. I'm also just like, what if this one guy just, like, has a vendetta against Brooklyn? That's also like.
Yeah, he might not. Maybe it's the end of his shift. He wants to go home and he lives up in, like, Astoria or something, which is in the other direction. So, like, he doesn't want to go this way. It doesn't. Get another cab. It's fine.
Or
it's
maybe, like, Brooklyn killed his brother. Like, I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, that's actually really traumatizing for him, and you should be ashamed.
Yeah.
Even bringing that up.
Yeah, and also just get another cab. Sorry. He started it. Okay.
He started it.
So then we cut to Samantha and Smith having sex. Specifically, Samantha's going down on him, and as he's kind of pulling on her hair falls out in his hand, and it kind of ruins the mood. Samantha tries to just be like, oh, give me that, and kind of like throw it over her shoulder, but he's lost his boner, which this whole plot is just touching.
Yeah.
How much he cares for her is just so touching. It makes me mad about the first movie all over again.
Yeah. There's a shadow looming over every heartwarming scene we have between them.
And also, it's just like, could she not have moved to LA to be with him, Fran, just like that? I guess they didn't want her to, like, move to somewhere to be with a man. But I don't know. There's just
I'd like to have that headcanon.
Yeah, I have the headcanon that he's also in London and they reconnected and they fuck all the time.
Yeah.
Well, denial.
Sad. It's sad. It's just, we're going to keep saying this in every touching moment. I mean, their plot line this episode really put me through the ringer.
Yeah. I mean, the thematic thing of this episode is denial, and that's our denial, is that they ever broke up.
No. They're living happily in London.
Happily. So then we cut to Carrie and Miranda walking and talking, and Carrie's basically just like, Samantha's not going to die, right? And she explains that, her hair started to fall out, and Miranda's like, oh God, was she at work? And Carrie was like, no, but she was doing a certain kind of job.
What is that? Why does she switch into this mode sometimes? It's so bizarre. I think we'll call it the stand-up mode or whatever you said, the bits.
Stand-up Carrie, yeah.
Yeah. Stand-up Carrie, where she suddenly has these, like, old-fashioned stand-up lines that, like the delivery is so bizarre and annoying.
Yeah, it's the pardonnez-moi school of acting where she just gets very hokey and...
Yeah. She was doing some kind of job, like knee slapping. It's like, what?
Okay,
you're like a stand-up comedian from like the 40s. Why are you talking like this?
It's like, we get it. You're the funny one.
Yeah. Relax.
Self-proclaimed. No. But then she kind of tells Miranda about her whole fight with Petrovsky and how he kills mice and optimism. And Miranda comes out with the fact that Steve wants to move to Brooklyn. What big problems these two have.
What equivalent disastrously in the episode where Samantha's going through what Samantha's going through and Charlotte's going through what Charlotte's going through. What a wonderful break to then cut to these two.
Then we cut to Carrie calming as she's attempting to put together the espresso machine, which is like its own prison for her, I must imagine. And this is when I think this is one of the columns where she's the most real to herself. Because she talks about how like his words brought her back to reality, because obviously Carrie has never wanted to live in reality. Look at the shoe collection. And then she's like, why would you want to live in reality, which involves living in pain, fear, or Brooklyn? You twisting the knife.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
And then she ends on the thought, denial, friend or foe. And then she makes the genius segue by saying denial was Charlotte's best friend. And we get this like heartbreaking scene, which is that, you know, Harry's kind of on his computer looking stuff up. And she's like, what are you looking at? And he's like, well, I'm looking at adoption. Like, I'm just doing some preliminary research, maybe putting us on some lists. Like, I just want to make a backup so that, you know, in the future we can have more choices. And you can see that she's devastated at coming to terms with how that's probably going to have to be the way that they go.
Yeah.
And, you know, she kind of says yes, but, you know, she's like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Kind of in a way that's like.
Yeah. And she says, like, she chooses her words carefully, and I can't remember exactly, but she says something like, that sounds like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it kind of going back to this denial theme, it is very like, she's like, that is good. Like, that is the right thing, the logical, the practical, whatever thing to do. That also is really devastating. And
I'm not ready to engage with that.
Yeah, I need to go for a run again.
She just sits on a bench by the reservoir. And of course, you know, the dog from earlier approaches. And again, this dog breeder just fucking goes off on this poor dog, being like, she's disgusting. It doesn't say that, but like heavily implies that.
Yeah.
And Charlotte kind of like has a meltdown in front of this woman, being like, you shouldn't just give up on somebody just because they don't perform. And starts crying, and then admits to her, you know, I'm trying to have a baby and it's not going well. And then this woman goes, I don't care for babies or labs. And then the scene ends.
Weird end to that. Really. What? Was there more of that we just lost?
Not one of the more graceful buttons we've seen to a scene.
Yeah.
It's like not funny enough to like for me to be like, haha, oh, life moves on. You know, it's kind of like, you are insane. You're an insane person.
Yeah. Like, I thought it was being set up for her to like maybe have a moment of niceness with her, or maybe they would do a subversion where you think the niceness is coming and then she says something kind of snippy, and then it just ends. Very odd. All right.
Very strange.
Whatever, lady.
And then we cut to Samantha at the wig store with Carrie, and, you know, she's talking to the wig salesman, you know, being like, give me your finest hair. And he's like, do you want natural or acrylic? And she's like, do I look like somebody who wears acrylic? And he gives her the first wig, and it looks like Florence Henderson, Carrie says, which is like the mom and the Brady Bunch, which is
thank you.
True. And then, you know, she puts on another wig called Candy, which is like this horrific, stringy, platinum blonde, curly wig, which I'm like, you know, I get that she's being kind of mean and aggressive because she's angry about losing her hair. But also this attendant is doing nothing.
Is doing his best. And she really takes it out.
I don't think he's doing his best. That's my argument.
Oh, okay. I was like, I just think this store is not what she's looking for because all the wigs around her look like Halloween wigs.
Okay. I'm willing to go with that because I was like, this man is also not helpful.
Yeah.
He's like offering her ugly wig after ugly wig. Like, you saw what her hair looked like. Like, the Florence Henderson one kind of looks like her hair. But then the Candy one, I'm like, sir, read it.
Yeah.
She's like, you're not listening. I want to look like me.
And then it's punctuated with Carrie popping out in like a new goofy wig, like every 2 minutes, like just to be like, hey, how's it going? And she's got like some other
wig
like,
on.
Goofy prop wig. Yeah.
The second prop wig that she wears, which is the curly red hair, I think is an in joke about the fact that Sarah Jessica Parker's first role was playing Annie on Broadway. And it's like an Annie looking wig.
Cute.
But as we said, Samantha storms out. She's like, my hair is my thing, and this is bullshit. So then Carrie and Samantha are having lunch, and like Samantha's like clearly still angry about this whole situation, where she's like, you know, I'm gonna be bald, I'm gonna look like a sick person, you know, and I don't want to be a sick person. Like, I'm not a sick person. And then she kind of goes down the dark line of thinking, being like, you know, what if it's not over? Like, I could die, Carrie, with really bad hair. And throughout this whole conversation, you know, Carrie's trying to be the like cheerleader, being like, no, you're not going to die. You're going to be fine. And like, your hair is going to look fine. And like, it's going to be okay. And then I love the way that Samantha just gets really real and is like, let me talk about what I'm afraid of talking about. And Carrie's like, okay, I'm here.
Yep.
Just great.
Just kiss.
Just kiss. No notes. Then we get to another touching scene. This whole episode is just like too good for its own good. We cut to her at home, kind of working up the courage to buzz her own head. You know, she kind of tenderly like buzzes 2 pieces off and like looks in the mirror, and it's just like so touching. And then Smith Jared comes home, and because he's like, yo, why are you trying to bail out of the premiere now? And he sees that she's like buzzing her head, and she basically is like, well, I'm buzzing my head and you can't handle it. And he's like, who says I can't handle it? And she's like, well, you freaked out. And he's like, well, you freaked out. And she's like, well, you lost your heart on. And he's like, shit happens.
Yeah.
And he says, let me be here for you. And then he just storms over to the sink, grabs the buzzer, and she's like, no, your hair is your thing. And he shaves his hair off. And he says, when I'm done cue balling here, you're next. This man is too good.
I can't believe she broke up with him because she was kind of bored and didn't like being around in LA for him. Like, I just don't buy it. I mean, look at this. I agree with the Kim Control sentiment that you said about, like, I like Samantha's end not having, like, a partner. Like, I like her sort of being representational of single women and people who don't get partnered. At the same time, unfortunately, they wrote her an amazing partner.
An amazing partner. That's the problem.
Yeah. I need him to want kids and you don't. You know, or something really big schism like that.
I agree. Because unfortunately, he's the kind of guy who would let her fuck other people if that's what it came down to. Yeah. He understands everything. Yeah. And he's like so bold in the way that he stands by her, you know, throughout her cancer. And then we end the scene on one of the worst Carrie buttons where she's like, and Samantha had the very best head of her life.
Carrie, not right now.
Not right now, girl.
I cannot stress enough, not right now.
Get out. Get out. You're in denial, okay?
You're excused from the dinner table. Go back to your room.
Yeah, go back to your room. I'm calling mom. I'm calling mom. You're being ridiculous.
You're being ridiculous. Have some decorum.
Jesus Christ.
It's like such a beautiful, tender moment.
I think this is the most touching scene we've seen so far. I'm willing to say that. Yeah. And it gets me every time. The way that she just is pushing him away, and he is like, no. And you can
He's so unbelievably certain. So sure of himself. Yeah.
And you can see how it affects Samantha. You know, she doesn't say anything when he starts like shaving her head, but you can see that she's like so deeply touched by this.
Yeah. Just a beautiful expression on her face of just like so moved. There's so much love between these two people. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And then Carrie,
best head of her life. Get out. Get out. Continues to be the worst person to have in a crisis. The worst person.
Even in a voiceover, she's not helpful in a crisis.
No, it's like shut.
And just like that, Big died.
And
stop it.
Stop it. Now it's like, again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. More obvious why Samantha's like, I can't hang out with these people anymore. So then Miranda goes to Brooklyn, just as scary as having cancer. And
horror strings. Yeah, no, just as devastating.
Just as devastating. And Carrie
And they're
makes
touring a house that is like in ruins.
Yeah, Carrie makes the quip that she's having an out of borough experience.
The puns. She keeps what a comedian.
What a comedian. What stand up, Carrie. And this is a heartbreaking scene in the worst way, which is that, Steve's like, and over here, we're going to tear these closets down. We're going to make a bigger kitchen. And Miranda's like, I don't know. It's not Manhattan. And I love that Steve just holds his ground and he says, Miranda, it's just not about you anymore.
My man.
It's just not about you anymore.
My man.
We
Steve.
are a family. And she goes, oh my God, I'm married.
Yeah, she crazy. It's both exactly what he should have said in that moment, and also just to prove how much he needed to say that, she actually does respond going, oh my God,
I'm married. It's like the weirdest response ever. I can't tell if it's supposed to be sarcastic or not. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, well, I'm going to go out back, with the kid and the dog. And then she stands at the window and she like watches Steve like run around with the dog and run around with Brady. And they look so happy. And, she decides that she's going to put her family first. And she like turns to the guy selling the apartment and she's like, well, I'm going to need to bring an engineer. And if the furnace is out of date, like you're going to have to cover that. And then Carrie's like, she negotiated her way to the future.
It's very bizarre. I need to say something about MPK for a second. First of all, like, so the thing about the borough hate, I gotta say this as a Manhattanite. I'm not a Brooklynite. I can't like claim that. So I actually get mad about it because she makes us look bad.
Yeah.
And like Carrie makes us look bad. And it's like, I grew up in exactly the bubble that these people are acting like they're in. And I grew up and got out of it. And when they still act like this, it makes me mad. It's like, you really have to go out of your way to like still live like this as an adult. New York is one of those places where you have to put in a lot of effort to be in your bubble, and not see other people that don't look like you or have the same amount of you. You know what I mean? You really have to go out of your way to do that. And I'm going to go on a really crazy tangent here. Can you bear with me?
Oh, I'm on the train. I am holding the railing of the train, ready to go.
Okay. You're holding the railing of the subway. The thing about like bodegas, where people get really obsessive and protective about bodegas, weirdly.
Okay.
Like, I feel like online, specifically in the era of like BuzzFeed internet and listicles about like 20 things I love about New York, it's like bodegas for some reason became like a symbol of like New York. Mm-hmm. I find that deeply weird because I too love bodegas, but also I hear people refer to anything that is not a grocery store as a bodega. Like, they don't really know what it is. Like, any deli or grocer is a bodega now. Mm-hmm. And the obsession with it and the defensiveness of it is kind of strange to me and feels very performative. Like, it feels like a very kind of, yeah, I heard that New Yorkers like a bodega, so I'm a New Yorker too. I love bodegas, yeah. And it's like kind of weird, especially to hear like white people get really aggressive about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, it is a sort of New York thing, but also like they're so handy and convenient because they propped up in places that were grocery store deserts, right?
Right.
I don't need to like lionize it. But for some reason, people who have moved here get really aggressive about bodegas. I think it's just you heard that New Yorkers like or don't like X. And so you take it on and like, Mm-hmm. That to me, going back to this stuff with Miranda and Carrie being like, I don't like New York, or I don't like all these boroughs. I think you see stuff like that and you see like TV shows and movies only take place in Manhattan. And I think that gets coded as like that's what Manhattaners are like. Oh, okay. Like, that's what the cool in crowd does, is they love Manhattan and we like to shit on the other places, right? And I'm going to stick up for the other boroughs as a proud Manhattanite who grew up on the Upper East Side bubble. I should be the most obnoxious person in this situation. You can't come here and then live in Manhattan and shit on 80% of the city. That's not okay. It's not cute. And I don't like that on Sex and the City, they do it cutesy with a wink. Like, I just said something politically incorrect. No, you're being obnoxious. Like, the punchline of Miranda's jokes about Brooklyn is at this time, it's not at all the Brooklyn that you and I know.
Right.
At this time, Brooklyn was much more like suburban and very family oriented, like very built around families.
and was much less white. The joke that Miranda is making and like landing is on a different context than like you and I would know. So that's something to keep in mind. There was also, I wanted to ask you about this, but I keep forgetting. I saw a map go around of like Sex in the City locations or something like that. And I can't remember if it was in the book that you have. Like someone posted this picture of like Sex in the City locations, and it was like showing where all of them live in the map. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was so telling because it's like, obviously Manhattan is the only thing that's shown.
Of course.
And they just ignore the rest of the boroughs. But it cuts off before Harlem. And I don't mean it just like doesn't highlight it. I mean like they make it look like the island stops at the top of the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly how MPK thinks. Harlem is like not white enough for him, and it's not rich enough for him. That's not New York. And I like, it's like there's an undercurrent here I want to just point out, because when people shit on the other boroughs, that's not like a cutesy New Yorker thing. That's a thing they learned from jokes like this.
Right.
But it just makes you sound like someone who only knows New York through what you saw on TV. You know what I mean?
And also in a very white, from only a white perspective.
Right, exactly. This is the demographic of people who go to Hamilton and then do hashtag, I live in the greatest city in the world, went to Broadway on a Tuesday night, who else can it? And they'll like, they shit on the Bronx, right? The place that like invented hip hop. This is like that demographic. And so when Miranda makes these jokes, it's a different time. And so the jokes are also kind of about different things. And so I just want to like defend the Manhattanites for a second and like separate us from this thinking, this MPK thinking of like, this isn't cute. And like, there's another layer to the joke in that people might not be getting, right? This isn't like a cute New York or interborough rivalry shit. This is like, Brooklyn is for poor non-white people and families. Obviously, I'm just obnoxious about this because I'm a New Yorker, but also just as a sheltered Manhattanite, I just, you know, I find it, we're not like this. You know what I mean? Like some people are.
Defend my people.
Some people are. But there aren't all like this, you know. I think it's kind of amazing. I think a thing I get really, you know, chest thumping about New York is that I grew up here for most of my life. And I understand maybe like 40% of the city, 30%. Like that's amazing. It's a big city and it is so diverse and complicated, right? Like I just learned about a totally new area of Queens I'd never heard of or seen before just the other weekend. Like that, I've lived here my whole life. That's crazy. How many cities in the world can you go and spend your whole life in and you still don't really get, you know, or whatever?
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, is that in 20 minutes, you can be in a completely different environment and in the same city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your anthropology lesson.
Well, thank you.
I think it's important because no, it's true. Like, you know better than anybody that like how people talk about New York. I think what you said is just so true, which is like, we learn about it through TV, really. Like that's where people fall in love with the city, is because it looks beautiful in movies and TV shows. But there is a dark underside to how people talk about certain regions here that I definitely, you know, I moved to the city from the DC area with a lot of prejudice, you know, from my parents who visited here in the 70s. And like, it has been so interesting to explore different areas. I'm obviously not anywhere close to exploring all of them, but it is a hard thing to explain. And it is kind of also the dark side of being here. So, thank you for culture checking us. Thank you for fucking culture checking Michael Patrick King. And I'm going to pause and get the book and see if they have the map. So BRB. Yeah. So the Bronx and Brooklyn are not included.
Okay. Okay.
It is only the Isle of Manhattan.
Yeah. Okay. I can see. Yeah.
And you can see the top of Central Park is here.
Okay.
So
yes.
it does include Harlem, but as you can see, there are no shooting locations above East 96th Street.
Yes.
That's
okay.
a barrier. So they put it here for like the artistic graphics. But as you can see, it is like ghost empty up here.
It's a wasteland.
Yeah, I'm holding up the book to show Emily, but the areas that they've listed as being important are West Village, Soho, Meatpacking, Upper East Side, Upper West Side. Actually, Upper West Side only has Miranda's apartment.
Okay.
Union Square, Midtown, and East Village, Lower East Side. And that's it. That's New York City. That says it all.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Well, Miranda's going to Brooklyn.
Miranda's going to Brooklyn.
And going to Brooklyn.
We'll move on now, but shout out to Steve for when he says I built this house, now I know that he literally did build that house.
He literally did. No, he wasn't wrong. He's the only smart person on this whole fucking show because he foresaw Brooklyn ahead of time.
Justice for Steve.
Justice for Steve. So then Samantha and Smith go to the premiere again. Touching as fuck. Before we get to how touching it is, though, we see that the movie title, it's the Gus Van Sant movie that was like promoted like a bunch of episodes back. The title is Needles, California.
What? This is actually one of my favorite tropes is like fake movies in things and like or fake shows and like the fake names of them. I just think it's so silly and fun.
Well, because remember he was playing like a junkie / stripper / whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I love that the movie is Needles California. Great. Phenomenal. And we see them emerge from the car together and Smith Jerrod's fully bald, giving like Brad Pitt in the hot.
Yeah, he really looks like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Pitt.
Same
like,
glasses,
wow.
everything. And then Samantha's in like this kind of like over the top pink wig, which I think is cute. The voiceover from Carrie starts cute and then takes a turn for our jar. So it starts cute by being like, you know, Samantha realized that like she was never going to fully be herself after this experience. So like might as well embrace it. Great. Makes sense. Nice closure. And then she goes, so tonight she decided to be Lil Kim. Haven't there been enough crimes against Lil Kim? Haven't there been enough crimes against justice for Lil Kim?
Justice for Lil Kim. It's going to be our takeaway. That's my one word for this.
Yeah. Justice for Lil Kim.
What did she do to you?
It's just like, come on,
yeah.
like Patrick King. Like, give me a break here.
Yeah. It's like mean. And it's Samantha's big moment. It's just, I don't know.
Jar.
It's just
straight to
weird.
The jar.
Back in the jar.
And then we cut to, this is the one scene so far that's like kind of insane to me. But I'm just going to let it go because whatever. We want Charlotte to be happy.
Okay.
Like really coked out. Basically, she gets a ding dong at the door. It's the Charles Spaniel like in a perfect basket being delivered by like a telegram guy. Like
I presume it's the doorman, but he is dressed like he's in the third. Like he has a bellhop hat, like
gloves, the whole bit.
Yeah, they like got out the doorman costume from like their 1940s set by accident. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And then they make a pun here that like the stork made a delivery because we find out that the bitchy breeder woman's name is Trudy Stork. And then Charlotte's like, can we keep her? Can we keep her? And Harry's like, of course. And then she's like, what should we name her? She's the prettiest girl in the world. Elizabeth Taylor. And now you get that joke from And Just Like That.
Now I get the joke.
Everything.
Now I got it. And I know that their other dog is going to be Richard Burton. So very cute.
So very cute.
As absurd as the delivery in the basket, whatever is, like, from this random lady who has no hint of joy or whimsy that we've seen.
Nope.
Suddenly does this really elaborate delivery.
Yeah.
All right, Trudy Stork, you've got layers. I apologize. I was not familiar with your game. That aside, there is a line Harry says that is so sweet in an episode that I think I was already primed to be emotional because of the Smith Jerrod stuff that I just was like, oh, where she goes like, we got this present. Can we keep her? And Harry goes, babe, if it makes you smile like that, of course we're keeping her or something. It's like,
no wrong. No wrong.
What if we just start crying? What then? What if I just start crying? Fuck you.
But then we cut to a mouse walking up on Carrie's face while she's sleeping. My nightmare. Oh,
And it's a horror movie now.
talk
Yeah.
about New York stereotype. My nightmare.
Oh. Oh.
Falling through a grate and this.
Yeah. Oh.
And she calls Petrovsky over to presumably kill another mouse. And we see him also like plug up the hole. And Carrie, again, I would say very uncharacteristically, like tries a second time to be like, let me just say what I need to say. You know, I know I'm being dramatic, but like my friend will be fine because, you know, she needs to be. And like, it's important for me to remember that. And he's like, well, when my friend died, and then Carrie's like, oh, again? And I'm like, girl, take a seat. Now you're being annoying.
Yeah, now you need to like let him also meet you halfway.
You gotta let him also talk.
Yeah.
And he's like, let me just say, when my friend also died, it took me by surprise, and I didn't want you to be surprised like I was, which, as we mentioned, is like, you know, tender. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he is being considerate in his very Russian way.
In his way.
She kind of says, I get that and I appreciate that, but like, I need my relationships with a little milk, you know, tossing to the fact that she wanted to put milk in her espresso. And he kind of says like, okay, I get it. And then she says, you know, I'm sorry about Sophie. Finally refers to his friend by fucking name. And we kind of end the scene on, you know, her saying in a voiceover, like, we finally spoke the same language. Okay.
We finally spoke the same language. Okay, Hilaria Baldwin.
Okay. Yeah. I'll see you at Astoria, Queens by yourself without him. Oh, wait. Okay. And then we got to get a couple more punches into Brooklyn.
We're not done.
The four girls get together for kind of like a final hurrah. Carrie is so mean in this scene. Can I say it? Like, is the classic thing where it's like the gay wedding. It's like once you start making many jokes about it sucking, I can only think that she says straight up like, well, like, I guess your life is over to Miranda. And then like Charlotte's trying to be positive, being like, well, we'll visit. We'll definitely visit. And Carrie's like, I don't know. It's really far. Girl, stop it.
Yeah, no, you're being a child. So mean. And it's like, you know, this is the time, whether you believe it or not, you know, doesn't matter. This time hasn't this entire episode have been about times, spaces for being realistic and spaces for being encouraging? You know what I mean? And her being like, can you just let me be in denial about this and be comforting to me? And then in this moment, she's just like, well, it sucks and your life is over and I'll never see you again.
Yeah. Great. I love that. And then she like twists the knife again because they're like ordering Manhattans. And then Miranda has this like great New York moment where she like reminisces about all her terrible apartments, which is like very New York. And then she's like, I don't know why I thought living in Manhattan was so fantastic. And then Carrie's like, because it is.
So
and then the
mean.
scene ends there. Then we get the Carrie voiceover. I'm like, excuse me, that is fucking rude and fucking mean. You want to take that again, Carrie? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. She's bought the house. She can't return it. Be fucking decent. Jesus fucking Christ. My God. Wake up. It's over.
Wake up, you animal. Marina has her head in her hands.
Mean. Yeah, my head is in my hands because it's like, again, it's like we're being lighthearted and fun. This is the time where we move on. And Carrie is just like stuck in it. And it's like, I get it. That's your character. That's your business, girl. But like,
read the room.
This episode's about being there for your friends.
Yeah.
Be there for your fucking friend.
Oh my God, get her ass. Yeah. Like you said, Miranda gets to a point where she actually begins to hype herself up. And Carrie's like, no, let me puncture this balloon. Come back in and be miserable with me. It's like, what? And then I don't know how intentional it was, but either the direction or Cynthia Nixon's acting choice, I don't know. But them all drinking the Manhattans, she does look upset. Like the way that Miranda drinks actually looks upset.
No, there's like a pause and you can see that she's mad, kind of. Yeah. And then we get to the Carrie voiceover, which is like, there's nothing like having great friends in a great Manhattan. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. If I was Miranda, I'd be like, thank God I'm a fucking body of water away.
Away
Because
from
I'm
you.
not fucking seeing you ever fucking again. So
she was
mean.
thinking about it. She was thinking about it when she was sipping on her drink. She's like, you know what?
You know what? Actually, don't
Actually,
come
this may have solved my problem.
Yeah. Actually, I never want to see your rat ass face ever again.
So funny. I forgot about that voiceover line. That's so funny. It's like even in the voiceover, she can't give it a rest.
She can't get a break. No, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And she's got these weird lacy gloves inside. They're all sitting inside a bar, and she has gloves on that are like lacy.
I didn't bring this up earlier, but I noticed that she starts wearing gloves with Petrovsky. I think it's her way of being like a refined European woman. And I'm here to say it's not translating, boo-boo. Take them off. It's not working. Nobody's getting it. You're just looking like a weird creep. You're not looking refined. And he is still going to fuck you somehow without the gloves. So wake up.
Yeah, he's not impressed by this. Good observation. Now I'm going to be like paying attention to all our little accessories now.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got to. My favorite thing is clocking how I think she like picks a necklace every season and then she like wears that necklace for most of the episodes. Oh. It's something I've clocked with SJP. So that's something, a little home game for those of you on your 8th rewatch.
To follow along.
What necklace is she wearing now? Well, that was Sex and the City Season 6, Episode 16. We end our podcast as we end all of our podcasts with our high and our low, our rose and our thorn. Emily, what was your negative of this episode? What was your diarrhea? I think I know, but I still have to ask.
It's hard to pick between all of her lines, but it's Miranda shitting on Brooklyn.
Yeah. I really don't like the way that Carrie overreacts to like, ew, I don't want to hear about your dead friend. Talk about not being, he's not sensitive to your feelings. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that? Who raised you?
Yeah. What is your high of this episode? What was your release the Kraken?
I'll pick Harry saying, if it makes you smile like that, of course we can keep it.
I'll pick Miranda's cat. Seeing that cat. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Shout out to Fatty.
Shout out to Fatty. A wonderful way to name an animal you love.
It's gonna kill me. We gotta wrap this podcast up. I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Yes, I think my highlight has got to be the buzzing scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too good. It's too good for its own good. Justice for Smith Jared. It makes me want to like find the actor and be like, I hope you're happy. Like, thank you.
Because her character went through a lot. I hope you were happy and doing great.
Yeah, even though you were playing a fictional character.
He'll be like, how did you find me? I'm calling the police.
Yeah. Get out of my kitchen. Well, if you want me to mysteriously show up in your kitchen like a creep, like, favorite, subscribe, all 5 stars, follow us on the socials. The huge. Don't make me beg. Don't make me beg. But I'll also beg. I'll do it for free. And I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.